We are back with Congressman John Larson and current Capitol Bureau Chief Chris Keating. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Congressman, if we could talk about President Obama recently said that we are ending our combat role in Iraq. First of all, what do you think of that plan? A lot of people say, well, what does that even really mean?
Well, I'm proud that the president fulfilled his promise. As someone who opposed the Iraq war from the outset, I was proud of what the president had to say. And I know it's funny when after you give a speech like that before the nation, and then I listened to a lot of the pundits afterwards, and to see that he was criticized by both the right and the left, you have to say, well, he probably was the right thing for the country. And time again, that's what you see President Obama do. Oftentimes, much to the chagrin, frankly, of the Democratic caucus, who wants to see him out there fighting more. But this is a president who understands history, and also a president who's deeply committed to his historic role, and also what's in the best interest of the nation. And I think when he said it's time to turn the page and have America pulling together, those were wise words from the president.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you how you think that he's doing, because he does face a lot of criticism, even from within his own party.
Well, I'd like to make sure that every single candidate says, puts their hand up and says whether or not they agree he's an American citizen, or whether or not they believe he's a Muslim or a Christian. I mean, this is how. Look, it must annoy you guys, for people that are professionals in the media and news business, to see that these statements without fact persist, and they're out there all the time. Look, the nation has far bigger problems that need to be addressed than this. He's doing an extraordinary job as president, and will continue to lead this nation forward.
Speaking of President Obama, John Droney, a friend of yours, had some statements lately regarding whether the president should come here to raise money. What were your thoughts about that? A little dust up.
I think the president ought to be here as often as we can get him here, and certainly he will, and is coming in, I understand, for both Dick Blumenthal and Jim Himes, which we are happy to see. Look. These are difficult times. You're the leader of the free world, and you have to make difficult decisions. And he has. And I'm very proud to stand with him at any time and encourage him to come in here. And I think, given the opportunity and given the audience, Barack Obama will do the right thing, and also, I think, ultimately bring the American people with him. And so we're happy to have him in here.
You had mentioned previously about your mantra is kind of made in America, keep it in America, build it in America. And we're having some troubles here in Connecticut, again, with Pratt & Whitney's. We've seen some recent announcements of layoffs. You know, I mean, when you're in Washington or when you're at home, I mean, you're obviously in touch with Pratt & Whitney. I mean, what do you talk to them about keeping jobs? How do you keep them here? How do you
Jobs, jobs. And, you know, whether it's Pratt & Whitney, whether it's Carrier, whether it's Otis, we think that, you know, the largest manufacturer in the state of Connecticut is vitally important. We have a number of issues in Washington that we think that we're going to be successful on. We think we're going to prevail on the F-35. We think that we're going to prevail on the tanker issue. We even think ultimately we're going to prevail on Marine One. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We recently had the ambassador from India in here talking about the sale of C-17s. We would have had the ambassador from Pakistan in talking about F-16s, but also visiting command, also going to Colts. It's all about manufacturing. And what we want to do is make sure that we're investing in America. And so that's why we continue to say, make it in America, sell it across the nation and around the world. That's what's going to turn this economy around. I was at AdChem, as you probably know, the other day, a supplier of Pratt & Whitney, but also we've been able to encourage them, and they've gone overseas with Joe Courtney, my dear colleague and friend from the 2nd Congressional District, but also to Singapore and other places where they've made sales that are coming back to the United States. Listen to this, 30% of our economy is based on manufacturing. I'm bullish about the fact that we've got to boost that number. 1% of that manufacturing base exports abroad. 95% of the opportunity lies there in the future. So it's a combination of making it here with the highly skilled, highly trained workforce that we have and selling it around the world. That's why it's so important and why the congressional delegation fight so hard to make sure that we hang on to our employees here. Rosa DeLauro and I have both been pursuing another area, an issue, and that's, I don't know if you're familiar, Lori or Chris, with the German system, what they've been focusing on, but rather than dealing with the typical swing that takes place in terms of the commercial side of the agenda, which has really hurt Pratt & Whitney, what Germany does is, instead of giving people unemployment, what they do is subsidize keeping the workforce there on the job, which keeps a highly skilled, highly qualified workforce there and perpetuating the economy. That's helpful because the circular flow of goods and services in a local economy are vitally important, both for the local property tax base, but also for jobs and goods and services and people being able to contribute. It would also save the taxpayer dollars and also provide the kind of dignity that comes from, I don't have an unemployment check, I'm still working at the job that I have. So, and I think a rebirth of the manufacturing area, and look at the technological advantages that Connecticut has. I mean, this is part of our DNA. I hope that by the end of the month we're going to have a very positive announcement about Coltsville becoming a national park. And look what that Colts industry was able to spawn. They were the first American manufacturer to locate overseas, and they were the first American manufacturer led by a woman, Elizabeth Colt, who actually, took over for Sam when he passed away, and she's actually responsible for the gun that won the West.
Right. We have time for one more question. Chris, I'll let you have it.
A quick budget question. Sure. Connecticut is looking at a big budget deficit in the 2012 fiscal year and could probably use some stimulus money. Do you think there will be a second federal stimulus, or will Connecticut kind of have to go it alone?
I think there'll be a jobs bill, and I think that will create a stimulus in and of itself. But this will be something that is weighed during, I think, the omnibus session. When we get back, Chris, there'll be about 16 legislative days. And given the gridlock that exists and everything that's on the line politically, I'd like to think, and we will be able to pass legislation in the House, but there's little that the Senate can do, given its rules. No third grader in Hartford, Connecticut believes that it takes 60 votes to pass a bill. Only in the United States Senate does that happen, and only there are they able to block legislation that would otherwise go to aid the people. I think in November, in an omnibus session, by that I mean an opportunity where everybody comes back and the budget is put on the table, there will be ample opportunity for us to put people back to work and hopefully also provide continuous recovery funds and stabilization for our economy as we move forward.
This has been a very nice conversation. I appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congressman John Larson and Chris Keating from The Current. Ahead, Roger Clemens seems confident as he faces serious criminal charges, but is he overconfident? We're going to talk about his legal troubles and their effect on baseball coming up.